Hello, everybody. Andy Goldberg here. Welcome to the Founder's Chair. Very delighted to have as my guest on the show today, Hugh Craigie Hackett from the company Stamp Free. Hugh, welcome to the Founder's Chair.
Andy, hi there. Good to be here.
Thanks so much for coming on the show today. Really excited to hear your story. Can we just start, Hugh, if you don't mind, with your personal story? So just tell us a little bit about you personally, where you're from, where you live, what you get up to when you're not at work.
You think that's the interesting bit? Yeah, I don't know. I've been most of my life in Scotland, living sort of in and around Edinburgh. I run a number of sort of startup companies, so I had a fair amount of experience of that. Hobbies, nothing particularly exciting. I do a bit of mountain biking, but at my age, it's an electric mountain bike, basically. So, and I've got super powerful motors on it, so that gets me up and down the hills, squash, that sort of thing. But yeah, my sort of main interest revolve probably around sort of the countryside and Scotland scenery, politics, history, and just being outdoors, frankly.
Well, you're in the right place for scenery and outdoors kind of stuff for sure. Tell us the story, Hugh, of how your business came about and at what point. I mean, you say you've been involved in a number of startups, so you've obviously got that kind of entrepreneurial confidence. Have you always had that, or what kind of was the trigger to you feeling like you could run your own business?
I think playing Monopoly with my sisters when I was about 9 or 10, frankly. I think they used to get really upset with me because I used to sort of win and then I'd allow them to borrow money from the bank, so I could keep on going and winning more and more games. That's right. I only sort of remembered this the other day when I started playing Monopoly again with my own daughter. But it's the confidence thing. It's a difficult thing. I remember going to Murrayfield in Edinburgh, probably back in the late 80s. I was about 19 or 20 or so, and going to see Billy Graham preach, who's a US evangelical
Oh yeah,
Baptist
yeah.
minister. I literally, was a Sunday, had nothing to do. I wandered in there, and there's probably about sort of 60 odd thousand people in there, and they're all sitting down. He's preaching. And then at the end of it, he sort of asked people to come up and talk to him, and no one stood up. And I finally thought, yeah, I'll do it. So I stood up and started walking on, and then other people did it. But I'm not scared of being different, and that's the thing. I think if you're running a business, you've got to stand out from the crowd. Otherwise, no one's interested in you, no one's interested in your business. So don't be scared to be different. And from my point of view, yeah, I've always had the confidence to stand out and do something different to ruffle feathers, I guess, and that can go against me as much as for me, to be honest. But that's the truth of the matter.
Probably is more for you than it is against you, I would
No,
imagine.
I upset a lot of people, Andy. I don't know if it's always for me.
Did so I'm going to skip ahead to a question then because one of the questions we like to ask is who has inspired you or pushed you into into going for it, just as it were. But it wasn't Billy Graham. You he just
No, it
picked people to
wasn't. I
come
mean,
up to the stage.
I mean, it was just another stupid thing. I used to watch Only Fools and Horses as a child, which certainly dates me as well. And just, it's not about making loads of money. It's creating something from nothing. Where there is nothing, coming up with an idea and taking an idea and turning it into something that has some sort of tangible value. It doesn't need to be a financial value. It can be just solving a problem. I mean, I remember at school when I was 15 writing an English essay, and just you were asked to reflect on one's own character, and it's just remembering this now as I spoke to you, and I remember in answering that saying, I like to solve problems, and if there isn't a problem to solve, I'll probably create one. And there's probably some truth in that. Thinking back to it, the challenge of fixing something, making something happen, I find exciting. It's not just whether it has a monetary value or not. It could be fixing any problem, making it happen.
So Del Boy and and Billy Graham. No, I'm
The
just
Dad Boys full of
I
gift
get
of the
what you
gab and
mean.
full load of rubbish. I've probably been a gift of the gab, but I hope they're not full of load of rubbish.
I've never actually seen the show, but I think it's always like there's a scheme, some sort of idea that he's going to try
Yeah,
and
it's all about being
monetize.
rich, a millionaire next year, basically, which
Yeah.
does eventually happen, I think, about 20 years on. But if you haven't seen it, I won't bore you with it now.
So your series of entrepreneurial projects and startups, it's kind of culminated to up to where you are now, which is Stamp Free. Tell us a little bit about Stamp Free. What
Yeah.
do you do and who do you do it for?
Okay. I mean, stamp free. Yeah, again, it was just a concept out of nowhere. I was back in sort of 2018, I think it was. I was driving to get a couple of postage stamps for a couple of letters I needed to post pouring with rain, driving into Edinburgh Hermiston Gate at the Tesco there to get some stamps. And I literally parked in the car park and thought, well, look, this is nuts. I'm driving several miles to buy some sticky labels to put on letters when I can send a WhatsApp or a text message in a split second. It just seemed a very sort of 19th century solution for what is the 21st century digital age, the ability to send something in a split second. Having to put these sticky labels didn't make sense to me. My problem was the fact, my knowledge of the postal logistics industry just about extended to buying a postage stamp. That was it. And yeah, so I thought we must be able to set up some solution that can be delivered just by using your phone and then shipping parcels or letters. And that's sort of where the concept came from. So I spent a couple of years sort of effectively cold calling sort of boards of directors at postal companies around the world, doing sort of internet researches, looking at their annual reports, validating the idea, talking to a software company to sort of develop a prototype of what the solution might look like, and then going around trying to raise some money and get a team behind me who actually knew the industry and knew what they were talking about. Because frankly, at that stage, I didn't.
Yeah, so you were the ringleader, but you're the kind of the instigator, but you're gathering the experts together to solve a problem. You,
Exactly. And for
right?
example, our first hire was our chair, who's sort of been sort of board level director at Royal Mail, Post Office, and various other postal companies around the world. Our second hire is our IT director, who was IT director at Royal Mail for 10 years before he joined us. He joined us when we had £70 in the bank, and I persuaded him to leave a full-time, well-paid job and work for us for share options for 6 months, poor guy, and he's still here. But these are sort of people who are really heavyweights within the industry who actually know what they're talking about. They know about how to integrate software solutions within large postal companies, and that's obviously what we as a company do.
So they saw the opportunity. So you found a good opportunity or a problem to solve, and they thought that it's a solvable problem, and you had the idea to do it.
Well, that's it. I mean, the concept was fairly straightforward. The ability to basically send a parcel letter by writing a code on a parcel letter, taking a photograph of it, AI validating that code, and then shipping it. So you're not needing a stamp, hence stamp free, or a parcel label. So it's a really straightforward proposition. Everyone sends parcels and letters. Everyone has access to a mobile phone. So it relates to everyone at whatever level. So it's easy at that level to understand. But then you look at the postal industry, which has been delivering posters and parcels and letters, for many, many hundreds of years in every country around the world. And that's a very different animal to understand. So as a punter on the street, yeah, you may get the concept, may think it's a great idea for you personally, but the postal industry and understanding how that operates technically, logistically, and in many other senses is a very different animal.
What would you say has been your biggest learning as a business owner over the years?
Um, yeah, to quote George Michael, you've got to have faith. You got to believe in what you're selling. You've got to believe in your product. You've got to believe in your company. I mean, the reason I set up Stamp Free was not because I was from the postal logistics industry. It's just it made sense to me. One plus one added up to two, very simply. The irritation of having to sort of go out to get parcel labels or stamps to send parcels or letters, as opposed to using a digital equivalent on the phone, that's an irritant that everyone faces to a degree. So that made sense. The issue was how to solve it. I didn't know at the time how to solve it, but I identified the problem and I identified the solution. And if you didn't believe in it, then no one else will believe in it. Won't believe in it. Your investors won't, your team won't, your clients won't. But actually, it's a lot easier if you genuinely believe in it and believe it will work. Then that's not a problem for you. If you're always going to believe it's going to be a success, then everyone else feeds off that. You don't have to pretend. So my number one piece of advice would be literally, if you want to set up a business, particularly if it's a disruptive new business with a new type of product, you've got to believe and not be questioning it yourself. Because if you're questioning it yourself, everyone else will question it.
Yeah, and you've got to have that faith, I guess, before you even have proof. Because
Yes,
by definition,
it's a
faith is
faith thing.
it's belief without the proof, right? So you haven't even proven yet that there's a market or a solution. You're just believing in yourself and you're
You're believing it from your own experience. And then obviously you spend time, months, years validating it to see if it works. Then other people buy into it, and then clients buy into it, and then you grow a business. But initially, it's just convincing yourself.
what would you say has been your biggest challenge during the years, Hugh, and how did you work through it?
Yeah.
Whose help did you get to work through it?
Um, a huge amount of challenges. And yeah, talking about how, I mean, one of the problems is a lot of the postal companies around the world are state-owned companies. They're national companies. A few of them have been privatized, like Royal Mail here in the UK. But being large state-owned companies, they change in the direction in the same way that an oil tanker might change direction. As we're a technology company, we're digital, we're fleet of foot. We can do stuff instantly that can take them months or years to change direction. We signed a contract with Royal Mail about 6 months ago. I first had a meeting with the chief exec of Royal Mail back in 2021. It took us nearly 4 years to get that contract. So it takes time, even when everyone's saying this is great, we want to do it, it takes time to make these things happen with these large companies. And you have to fund your company during that time when you haven't got those contracts. So that's the difficult bit. You asked me as to sort of who's helped us, helped me specifically. I got lucky. I was cold calling as ever investors around the UK initially, and I got hold of Cambridge Angels, who are a syndicate of technology angels in Cambridge. And one of them is a guy called Dr. Ron John Narg, who runs the Silicon Valley VC, focusing on AI investment, and AI is what we're all about. And he spends all his time now living in Silicon Valley. But he got really excited because he's a global pioneer of handwriting recognition software for mobile phones and has sold his products to and companies to Apple, Motorola, and people like that. And we use handwriting recognition as the core of our technology. So he loved what we were about, bought into the concept, and has supported us ever since. And I hesitate to know how much money he's worth, but there's a lot of zeros behind it. But he bought into what we're trying to do. He recognized the problem, and he's there. He's always there to support, me, not just as an investor, but as a mentor and someone. He'll tell me if I'm being an idiot, and say, Hugh, if you don't do this by this, then we'll come in at half the valuation. So there's, when you're doing something wrong if he disagrees. But he's really, really supportive, and that's really cool.
Yeah, so that's pretty important then to make sure you've got people around you that are supporting you, but are also going to tell you when you're being an idiot.
Yes, and I have lots of those because I'm an idiot quite a lot of the time.
I'm sure you get an equal amount of support, or hopefully you do.
Yeah, no, you do, but you need someone to question you. You need someone to question you.
Sure. So, Hugh, what's the next big thing for you in Stamp Free? What do the next 1 to 3 years look like in terms of opportunities and challenges?
Well, yeah, we've got to scale the company up now. We've got a few contracts under our belt. We're sort of, live in places like Kazakhstan, which, most of us struggle to find on the map, but it's a huge country and we're rolling out our technology there. But I'd like us to be live in every country on the planet, simply. I'd like everyone to have the option at least to go in to ship a parcel or letter and just be using their phone. Whether they're doing it through a postal app or whether they're doing it via WhatsApp or whatever, these are all the solutions that we provide. And it's just the convenience of that. And making sure that everyone on the street has the ability to do that, just to fix what is basically a small irritant in their lives, to make their lives easier. So that's our game plan for the next 3 years. We're scaling up. We're now live in most continents, and we're certainly transacting with clients across every continent, which sounds impressive, but it's probably only sort of 1 or 2 countries per each continent. But we're building up from there, and that's what we need to be doing over the next 2 to 3 years.
I mean, infrastructurally, technologically, you must be pretty scalable. Is it more the selling the idea and getting the contacts and the politics?
We're a B2B SaaS company built on an AWS platform, so it's infinitely scalable. The solution works, it's easy and quick to integrate. So from the technology side, that's solid. And we use a mixture of internal developers and third-party developers. And the third-party component is clearly like a tap. You can turn it on and off as and when you need it. So that's fantastic. But no, it's just as we get feedback from clients, prospective clients, is being able to react with them and actually to integrate with them and to go live with them in a controlled fashion that works for them. But obviously, reputation is everything. You just screw up once, basically, there's a ripple effect negatively. So we've got to get each one absolutely right each time, and it's managing that is what's so important over the next 2 to 3 years.
Okay. What advice would you have for business owners who are trying to do it on their own or who are considering going out on their own?
Um, yeah, Stamp Free, the name came up with the idea of getting rid of stamps basically and then labels. But the tongue in cheek for the first couple of years, I used to call it Stamp Free because we wouldn't pay anyone to do anything. Particularly in Scotland, we've got a really supportive entrepreneurial community. We have Scottish Enterprise and we have a number of other bodies who support entrepreneurs and feed off that, go to people, get advice. If you want someone's business, maybe don't go to them for business, just go to them for advice. And if they're interested in what you're doing, that they may give you advice, they may give you investment, they may give you business. But try and get something for nothing in the early days, because in the early days you haven't got the money. So you need to go out there. Our chair, when we hired him, I went to a headhunting firm and said, right, we'll pay you a fee. when we raised our first investment round. We haven't got any money now. They agreed with it. Our second half from Royal Mail, again, headhunting firm, give you a fee once, we have money to pay you. We haven't at the moment. So do it all on a pro bono basis. And most people will, particularly if they buy into the idea and if you're nice to them.
Yeah. Until you're generating sales and profit, get something for nothing. Manage your cash flow, manage your finances.
Absolutely. You can't control when you get the sales, and you can control your cash flow.
Was it I think it was Jeff Bezos famously at the start, his desk was a door that had in his garage.
I've forgotten about that. Yeah, I think that's
a
true.
door on its side and just put it onto stools or something.
Yeah, but there's something much more authentic of doing something like that at that stage.
Sure.
Yeah, if you become a successful company, you look back and everything's great, but it's also very boring. You look back to those sort of things with sort of fun memories, and it's building something from nothing. That's where the exciting bit is.
Hugh, we've come up to the end of our time, but it's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you today and finding out more about your journey and about Stamp Free. So really appreciate it. Thanks so much for taking the time to talk to us today.
I've enjoyed it, Andy. Thank you.
And thanks to all our listeners, as always, for tuning into the Founder's Chair. Keep an eye out for more podcasts and more interviews coming up soon. But just leaves me to say thanks again to Hugh Craigie Hackett from Stamp Free. Hugh, thanks again.
Thank you.